touch, bad touch, bad touch.
Yeah.
1980 was really, really traumatic for you, wasn't it?
Clearly. I mean, it was great hockey.
I was young at the time, and you know how young men are when all these gymnasts are on the screen. They get all enamored with them, and then there's the East German team, and you're like, my sexuality is now confused.
1976, 1980. Yeah, I could see that. They
Well,
boycotted 84, so we got a reprieve.
yes. And now you'd have to go look at like your North Korean athletes with your weightlifters, Chinese athletes. That's usually where a lot of your doping comes in.
I watched the Chinese male gymnastic team. They were amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Oh,
They were some
divers.
serious dudes.
Same thing with the divers.
Diver? Oh, diving. Duh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been thinking about diving in oceans and shit like that. So when you said that, I was like, they're doing scuba diving in the Olympics? Sorry.
Well, why not?
Only
do
if they have to
breakdancing.
retrieve people who don't come up. Actually, I take that back. They would have had to have scuba divers for stuff like for like canoeing and rowing and crew and all of those different things, and also for surfing, because you'd have to have people monitoring under the waves. So I bet you did have scuba divers.
Well, when you said diving, that's what my brain went to. So that's
know,
why I got
I know.
confused. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So, where did Olga touch you inappropriately?
Every goddamn place I asked.
Well, at least there was consent, so we applaud that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you
She
call it
does
consent.
chiropractic work on the side. You're now fixed.
My dick snapped in ways I didn't think possible.
Don't
That's
move.
beside the point.
Oh, now you're better.
So those of you who weren't alive during the Cold War probably don't get up these jokes. Anyway, let's move on. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul E. Cooley. Joining me, my fellow co-hosts, Veronica Jagger and Terry Mixon. How the hell are you?
I'm reminiscing about, Olympics past.
Now, wait a minute. What drove this?
You did.
How did I drive this?
You did.
How did I drive this?
Well, okay, so do you want me to backtrack along?
Yes.
these-
Let's have the blow by blow here. Well, maybe not price.
You're still thinking about Olga,
precisely
aren't
like
you?
that.
Phrasing with Olga. Phrasing.
So this all started because during our pre-show banter, something came up about Russian misinformation, and
Oh, that's
how and it must be Russian misinformation because that establishes this lie that Paul always kills off all the characters in his story. But Terry's the one who's always claiming that Paul kills off the characters. So it goes to that Terry is actually an agent of Russian misinformation. And that goes down a whole rabbit hole of knowing that Olga somewhere has, gotten this disinformation from Paul via nefarious and maybe pleasurable means, we're not sure. And it just all disintegrated from there. And then they
And
started
it's
talking
parents.
about Olympics, the Russians and the East Germans, and so it's a bit.
It's convoluted. Let's shoot through
Normal.
this shit. V, what have you been up
Totally
to?
normal. What have I been up to? I have been working on stuff for my pseudonym, getting my demos put together, getting website stuff put together, making sure that the website hasn't been hacked. That's always nice to find out when you go back and touch it. Managing the usual craziness this time of year in my house, and writing.
Writing. What's that?
Writing.
What's that?
Something where you put words on a page and they start to tell a story. I don't know. I just read
I don't believe
stuff.
it.
So that's been my flavor of crazy this week. What about you, Terry?
I've been writing. I've been relaxing. I'm pretty chill. This is my chill week. I'm feeling good.
Relaxing. What
How
is
does
this?
one do that? How does
I
one
know,
do that?
right? Although, Paul is going to give me some chiding here, but I think we're going to end up having another visitor to our home.
Another one? Okay.
Our neighbor across the street is moving out and having to move to an apartment and can take her 2 older cats with her, but not the 7-month-old kitten they have.
Aw.
Oh no.
So, rather than see it go to the pound because they weren't able to find anyone else, we'll find out in a day or so, but I believe that she'll be coming here to visit. She looks like a little bit like Sassy. She's about the same size, a little floofy. There will probably be hate on sight with Sassy, who is uber jealous. Uber jealous.
Yeah.
You got this whole soap opera going on in your house with all these cats.
It's like
And
a
their
telenovela.
personalities.
That's what I have in my house, the telenovela of cats.
Oh my God, you're just a hotel. Just a
Hey,
hotel.
What can I say? It's a calling. I do it. Whose pager is going off? Is
Not
that your
mine.
pager?
Oh, someone's probably trying to message me. Let me make sure. Let me make sure there's no emergency. Is there an
No
emergency?
emergency. Isn't there always an emergency?
Is there blood? Is someone dying? Has 911 been called?
No, it's so even though there's only one child at home these days, there are still 2 more who are on the family chat. And that means that on the weekends, we get updates about what's going on at their various places of employment, which are now competing home improvement stores. So if I needed more sibling drama in my life, that is what I have.
So, let me get this straight. They're going to come home, one wearing a Lowe's t-shirt, the other wearing Home Depot, and there's going to be wrestling.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty it, except one outranks the other on the management chain. And I think one can probably bench press the other. So my bet's on Mr. Big Orange.
Ugh.
So
Uh-oh.
and then some of us have our bets on Big Julius right here because he is a good boy. What about you, Paul?
Hopeless. Last Sunday we had to take my mom back in the hospital. She's gonna get sprung finally today or tomorrow.
Yay.
It's been another week. We just got her out of the hospital. She was out of the hospital 72 hours before we put her back in. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I did get stuff back from beta readers on the new book, so I've been incorporating that. I've still got one outstanding, and kind of still waiting for the machinery to take over on the publishing side because I have to submit my book first. So this week I got to do some more technical checks on my sailing terminology and make sure I haven't goofed anything too badly, and then do my word count for the F-bomb because I need to make sure it's where it needs to be.
So what is your
Especially-
limitation on the word bomb, the F-bomb word count? Is it like, do you have a floor? Do you have a ceiling? What is it?
I just kind of look at it and I go, that's too many. That's too many.
Do you ever go,
Yep.
that's too few? You need to add more F-bombs?
No, strangely enough, I don't. It's really hard though because in real life you meet people who use the F-bomb in just about every other sentence. But if you write a character like that, people are like, why is this character talking this way? It's like, because that's real life people. Mm-hmm. But you can only do it for so long before the shtick wears thin. And I actually had one character call out another character over F-bomb usage in Evolution, which was kind of cool
Seems
and
very
kind of
meta.
strange.
If you look
It was
at,
very
like,
meta.
the reaction that Jake Bible got off of his, where the first chapter had, what was it, 150 F-bombs or something ridiculous like that?
I don't
Something
remember.
obnoxious.
It was excessive. It was excessive.
I've
It was
also
very
heard
excessive.
from a military science fiction author that I shall not name that he got into a tussle with an editor about F-bomb usage and profanity
Has that
in general.
editor not been around the military? I mean,
That was his explanation, and the story went through anyway, and was a whomping big success with the audience it was aimed at.
I think the only reason why I wasn't, when I worked as a contractor, again, 21, looking somewhat innocent, haha, fooled them. And they're like, oh, we're really sorry. I'm like, I did theater for 4 years. I probably know just about as many, terms as you do, and we can trade. They're like,
It probably hurts the ones you haven't.
yeah. I'm like, and they're like, but you don't think? And I was like, yeah. And when I do, it's fucking effective. They're like, oh, she knows how to use them. Yes, I just use them judiciously.
She's got words. Oi. She knows how to use them.
Don't sing.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Don't sing. No.
Julius looks offended.
Yeah, well, the hell with him. Anyway, so apart from that, I did get some stuff done on Extinction and worked on my website this week, which is strangely apropos for this particular episode.
Yes.
So, apart from that, I'm way behind the 8 ball on recording, but that's about normal. Scott, you're a sick bastard if you logged in here to hear me sing. Oh my God. Nobody would log in to hear me sing. So we're here to talk about a couple topics.
Yep.
Number one on the list is websites.
Wait, we have to have websites?
You don't have to have anything.
No.
You don't have to have anything. However, if you would like some visibility, on the search engines, it's good to have a website. If you want to be able to engage with your audience and have them leave comments or whatever else, you need a website. If you want to announce things like that and have links and be able to usher people to your store or your Amazon book, your Amazon author page or whatever else, you need a website.
If you want to collaborate with people and need a spot so they can learn more about you, you need a website.
Yeah. I know a lot of people and businesses use a Facebook page.
You can't rely on that.
You can't see it. If you're not a Facebook user, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Matt says they say swearing is a sign of poor vocabulary. My vocabulary is more than sufficient. I just fucking love swearing. Love it. You were saying, V?
And the thing is, different social media sites are very generation dependent. So you may not be able to be found or seen by folks within a certain age demographic. So that's a problem depending upon what you write. And at a minimum, you need, even if you say that you're going to have a presence on every spot, you should have a website that you can put in your bio or link tree or whatever, so that there is a place where people can go should any of these, social media platforms decide to pack up and go home.
MySpace.
GeoCities. Live Journal.
GeoCities, good God.
Just because it's big does not mean it can't go away.
Now, here's where things get kind of crazy.
Kind of.
What kind of website do you need?
Depends on what you do and who you want to engage with.
For most authors, I think you need a list of books, or maybe your most popular books, or the ones you want to pimp, and that needs to be on the landing page. Bang, bang, boom. It needs to be there.
Bada bing, bada boom.
You got to catch people's eyes with your covers. After that, then the question is, do you want to have those be links just to the store, or do you want to have links to pages that describe the book and go into this, that, and the other, maybe list some more awards or comments from Amazon or whatever else, ratings, yada, yada, yada. that's what you need to do. That provides you deeper links, and then you can do a little bit more of the SEO management and show up higher in Google and blah, 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 and DuckDuckGo and all the rest of them. So it just kind of helps. It also means if somebody's new and they've read just one book of yours, say they came to Cooleyverse via Ancient Trap, they're going to want to see what else is there, and they're also going to want to see what else has a cover that looks like it takes place in space.
So,
Because
Paul,
that's like the likely way it's going to happen. Yes, sir.
go ahead and put your thing up on full screen. Let's take a look. Give us a little walkthrough of your website.
I'm not going to walk you through my site, which is still under construction.
Just a little bit. Why don't you
for
put my
fuck's sake.
site up there and walk through it and see what you think then? Because mine is static, well, static as it's going to be, and it isn't changing. So maybe you can say, this works, this doesn't work. That way you have something to put examples up for them. And don't be afraid to tear it apart. It's fine. I know that it's probably, not the greatest, but there it is.
Yeah.
Hang on one sec.
And for those folks who are listening, you can just go to terrymixon.com and scroll the critique on your own, and we'll do our best to walk through it like this.
There we go.
All right.
Very simple.
See, my
so we're
website has
actually
all these
wrong.
Paul Cooley stuff things on it, so that's obviously a big mistake on my part. Marketing
this-
fail.
This is my new landing page. I put up the most popular series, the most popular books, basically in order. And then at the top, I have very simple menu items basically about me, TV movie rights, in case anybody's silly enough to come knocking on the door. Then you've got series and books. And I don't have everything here. I've just got the most popular ones listed here. But then these pages have landing pages. And that's an old landing page. That's not the new one. Shit. So anyway, I've got stuff. I've got all the book covers. This one's terrible. I've got a better one that's apparently not published yet. So I've got stuff like my YouTube channel, posts and podcasts. People may not have a whole bunch of that stuff unless they're blogging and everything else. It just all depends on what you're doing and the kind of audience you're trying to engage with. Another thing I'm going to be adding here is a search bar so people can search for podcast episodes, and then also podcast playlists. I'll have those up here too. So I just have a few more things I need to do. Most people don't have the same problem domain that I do, because most people don't have a podcast and narrate audiobooks and all the other foolishness that I get up to.
Right.
You can be as complex or as simple as you want. This could be, each of these links could just be to, there's a new one. Could just basically be to the Amazon page, or, a page like this where you basically have the links for it, as well as, your covers and whatnot, and descriptions of the books, probably that you get off Amazon. So something like that. I'm still not happy with any of this because it all looks like shit to me. I've got to work on my theme. But bottom line is, you've got information where a new reader comes in and you want them to be able to see the kinds of things that you're doing, the kinds of books you have, especially if you're multi-genre. It's good to have some examples up there from all your work.
Go ahead and bring mine up and wander through it and see, we're talking themes, and I use an author theme for my WordPress site. And it looks a little different, so maybe that would be something that's more appealing to whomever.
Right. So basically, you've got in the front your bio, and then beneath that, you've got your latest releases.
And if you hit any one of the links up above,
these guys.
Yeah, any one of those, go ahead and you'll see
Right.
that there's the entire series. And if you click on one of those, it takes you to
A description
a landing
page.
that
and
can then
takes
take you to Amazon.
Right. Exactly.
And can you go back to one of those pages real quick? Scroll down. Okay. Note where it says, as an Amazon associate, if you are going to be pimping your stuff and you're putting Amazon links up on your page for your books, do this.
It's required.
What do you mean it's required?
They sent out a big notice a year and something ago to people saying that if you're not following these rules where you are required to have a notification close to the link button, that if you don't have it, then they can terminate your Amazon Associates account.
Oh, I'm just saying that if you are posting links to Amazon on your page, you should be part of their Amazon Associates program.
It doesn't earn a lot of money, but it earns some money.
And you know what? If it'll buy you a cup of the beverage of your choice, why the hell not?
Well, sometimes we also get deals on percentages and things like that when we buy ourselves.
So yeah, there are lots of other things that can be done. So something that Terry has that you don't, at least you didn't have on your first thing, your landing page, Paul. Terry has a contact me button on the at the very top.
I just have a link for my name, and that brings up my author bio. But you're probably
needs to
right.
be clearer. Probably needs to be clearer.
So I probably need to make that a separate page. So anyway, this like you've got a free book which goes to your mailing list, I assume, book funnel, landing page. Yeah.
Not many people follow it, but hey, what the heck?
Yeah.
There it is.
And so basically you've got all the information about your series, you've got your books listed, etc. You've got all the stuff from your personal site, and as well as the stuff you do for your sugar daddy. So that pretty much covers what I consider mandatory stuff you want on a website.
Let's see these.
For an author. Huh?
Sure.
CVs.
Look, you can look at my regular one, voicesbyveronica.com.
Ah! If only he could type.
Oh, says the guy who hunts and pecks. I don't want to hear it.
Details.
Come on. Thank you.
Woohoo! Okay. So mine's different because narrator. I probably should mention somewhere that I write, and I have published books. But
Make a note.
I'll make a note somewhere. So a couple things. One, I have a logo. I paid for that logo. I paid a very talented artist, Denise Lehman, to please draw a cartoon of me in a red dress, and it's awesome. I use it for everything. I have a color scheme. I stick to those colors. That is my color palette for all of my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I try to stick to one or two fonts. For narrators, the deal is you have your demos on your main page. And it's labeled. So it's demos are what I do. It should highlight what you do and what you want to get work in. So I've got nonfiction. These are all playable from the site. So in the event an author comes here and is like, oh, I want to cast for something, then they can click and listen to it. If you click the demos bit, the headphones, I really should redo those buttons. They look horrible. That'll bring up even more demos. So I think I've got 8 that sit there. The contact goes to a contact page. The about goes to a bio with a headshot. And it also, at least for me, it lists the equipment that I use, the fact that I have a home studio, and associations that I'm a part of. Very cut and dry basic. I used to have a blog. I don't keep up with it, so I took it off. I may use it again, if only to cross-post things that I put in a newsletter. And it is, I do use a theme, Customify, I think that's what it is. I love it because it's easy to use. And I lucked out early on where I got my own domain, and I know a guy who runs an IT company. And so I got hosting for free for years. And then we finally leveled up, and now I pay for it. And for the record, no, I do not ask my darling Mighty Ginger to fix my website. I do all of the work myself. Because he's like, that's yours. So,
does SEO make much difference for authors? I think it does. If you go and you put in Paul Cooley, not just Paul E. Cooley, but Paul Cooley, I come up first. And I think that's because they, or at least I used to, I should still come up first, but that's because I've been posting for a long ass time, but using tags and everything else, and then also the YouTube and all the other crap that I do, I think it does help. I think it does make sense, and it does make you a little more visible, whereas before you're just kind of like lost inside everything, unless somebody does a very exact search.
Yeah.
So I think for those reasons, it's ultra important to have your own website. Now, how expensive do you need to go? I'm not going to mention any hosting providers here because I'm not sponsored by any of the sons of bitches, but I use one. I'm happy with them. But how high is up is really what it is. In some places, you can get a static web page for like, a couple bucks a month, plus a domain. That's all you need. And then you can get a WordPress or Drupal or whatever hosted solution from somebody. And hopefully they will do their jobs and actually take care of your installations so you don't have to. You don't have to worry about doing all the security updates. You don't have to worry about closing off everything. You don't have to worry about trying to learn Nginx or, God help you, Apache, and reverse proxies and all the other shit that goes along with it. If you don't know what you're doing with that, you want something that's simple, point and click. Because you are not a programmer, you are not a software engineer, you are not one of those folks.
You're a writer, and you should be writing.
You're a writer, and you should be writing.
I'm not shy. I use DreamHost for my hosting, and they do all of that for me, and I'm happy to let them do so.
Yeah. So it just all depends on what you want to use. Some people can get away with just a regular website. Some people can use there are other tools to basically generate static websites from dynamic content. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can do. There is not just one solution. There's a billion of them. But keep in mind, there's a reason why there are popular solutions versus niche solutions.
One of the other things that these sites can do for you is they can provide privacy for you. For example, if you register your own domain, it's going to have your name and address on it, and you can get lots of spam contact. And over the years, I've gotten a number of calls of, we'd like to purchase the rights to your book, but it's, all from a call center somewhere in China, most likely. And it's like, yeah, if you don't want to have somebody knowing who you are and where you are, you can go ahead and have that anonymity by having a site like DreamHost, paying them extra to go ahead and mask your identity from being seen by the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do. It's just, I think a website's the most versatile. That does not mean you get to get rid of all your social media crap.
No.
It just means it's an addition, but in my humble opinion, that's your home base.
Yeah.
Links that you post on Facebook or stories you post on Facebook should link to your site, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't personally think cross-posting is the way to go, although Meta is so fucked up with how their algorithm is. It's probably the only way to get in there is to double post. But as a rule, I try not to cross-post, and I've always tried not to cross-post. I'll give you the link because I want you on my website to put comments there, not to leave comments on Facebook. Fuck Facebook. So, yeah, I'm cranky, curmudgeonly. What can I do? So there's just so many different ways to do it. You just need to do a little investigation and figure out exactly what the right solution is that you can afford and that you can implement.
And if you can register your own name as the domain, do it now. If you need to have, so I don't use VeronicaJaguar.com. It's there. It's mine. I think the Mighty Ginger set it up so it redirects. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I also have it set up to where voicesbyveronica.com, that also deals with my email. So it's not, so if someone's going to email me, it's not whatever @gmail.com. I have those too, just in case. But it looks more professional to have
your own domain.
Contact someone at your own domain. And if your name is a little more common, throw in a middle initial. Throw in author at the end. Throw, something, rights. Something books. Something publishing. But do, stake your flag now.
Yeah, rather than
because the world's only getting bigger.
I am sad to inform you that going to VeronicaJaguar.com tells me that page cannot be reached.
Oh well.
Oops.
But it just means that you don't have anything on there. It doesn't mean that you don't necessarily own it.
No, I know I own it. If I don't, then I'm going to have words with somebody.
The only reason I use my middle initial is there was another dude on all the social media platforms named Paul Cooley who was real estate and had a podcast. And I wanted to make sure that when people came to find me, they didn't end up finding this ass clown. So that's why I went with Paul E. Cooley. Whereas before I went with Paul Ellard, it was too long for books. It's made a mess of jackets, so I just finally shortened it to Paul E. Cooley. And there you go. And I have paulecooley.com. I registered that way long ago. So I think those are pretty much the ins and outs.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be ultra complicated. It can be very, very simple, and you'll get away with it. And yes, we stayed on topic, and I know it's scary, but we're about to lose that because I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
Looking at the who is, it appears to be owned by someone. What is it called? Namecheap.com. So I'm afraid you may have to have a discussion with someone because I believe that it may.
That may be who she registered with, though.
It may be.
Yeah, that is. That's
Okay.
where that was bought.
Okay, that it just hasn't been used. It hasn't been redirected, and it could be.
It hasn't been redirected. Slacker.
I'll add it to my list of
Talk to
many
your IT
things
guy.
to do. Talk
Your
to
IT
the
guy could take care of that.
I also have the Black Novel. I have the blacknovel.com, the derelictsaga.com. I think I have garesinferno.com. Well, that wasn't a very popular book. I think I let that one expire. But I've got several like that. And I try and make sure that if I've got a big series or something like that, I want it to have its own domain if possible, just because. And right now they all redirect to my site.
But that's a smart thing to do.
And that's the way to do it, I think, rather than having separate sites, unless you're doing something really crazy. Unless you have I'm a software engineer by day and then I'm an author at night, I might want 2 different sites for that
Yes.
kind of deal.
Yes.
So any questions from chat? Any questions from chat?
I think you're all still stunned that we stayed on topic for a half hour.
Yeah, who replaced the host with Folger's Lizard People? William, that was awesome.
Does Folgers make lizard people? Do they
I have
come
no
in
idea.
in the little red containers?
You have to wonder if they're crystals. If you put them back in water, do they then become lizard people? Do they just kind of grow just to add water, like the old Bugs Bunny cartoon where the Marvin the Martian's out there?
Little sponge pellet animals that you get
Yeah.
and drop them in water, and then look, it's a dinosaur.
Or Shrinky Dinks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Shrinky Dinks get
Smaller. Never mind. You're right. You're right. I had a moment. Leave me alone. The dinosaur sponges, I remember those.
Yes.
All right, chat has gone quiet, so they've either, all passed
It's
out from
checked out.
boredom. Yeah, all
checked
checked out
out.
for boredom. You sons of bitches. So, recycling. This was one from you, V. So what does this mean?
Okay. So I have way too many, probably completed or 75% completed manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
I know their shit. I know that, straight up. And it's because I was writing, and you write your 1 million words to hone your craft, and sometimes they're shit. But I never throw anything out. I'm a horrible pack rat. So, and the fact that I handwrite everything, I've got drafts saved that are I have some drafts that are older than my children. I mean, that's bad. But
That's scary.
yeah, but the bones of them are decent. There are still decent characters. There are still some decent ideas. And I'm I could redo this. I could rework. Oh, should I? Should I bother reworking it? How do I write? Can I rework it and write to market? Can I rework it and write it to themes that are more prevalent? How do I take this really cool idea and then twist it around to make it work? Do I bother? Because the cool character ideas, the characters are still whispering or yelling or stabbing in some cases.
Your characters need to meet my characters in a dark room. We'll take care of this.
I don't know. I mean, I had a, so actually I finished the whole thing. It was it was supposed to be urban fantasy. And there was a premise there with the the paranormal creatures having to prolong their lives by having new hearts stitched into them.
Okay.
Sorry, the expression of face was. Do I?
What?
Yeah, I actually had a supporting character called the Stitcher for various reasons. I know, right? It's always the nice, innocent ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that with the trends right now with dark romance, if I added a romantic subplot, I could rework this. And there were some aspects of it in the original draft. I'm like, do I bother? Is it a waste of time to go back and recycle something? Or is it worth the time to do that forensic outlining and see what can be salvaged?
My advice to you on that is first to ask a question. How long is the work that we're talking about?
Xander says my characters need Jesus. In that particular one, they don't. They don't believe in that. So how that one is completed.
Is it a novel? I mean, I'm trying to guess the range of size.
It's about 70. It's about 70,000 words.
Okay.
I have other.
Go ahead.
Like I said, I have stuff that is. I don't necessarily stop something. I try to write to completion, even if it is shit. And then I go, okay, let me try to work on it. But oftentimes I've gotten frustrated and just like, I have to do something better. I'm not getting paid to write. I'm getting paid to narrate. Close the drawer, go back to work.
My advice there is that if it requires a lot of work, to use it as inspiration and go forward, not to rewrite it. If it's close and you just need to make some modifications, then go ahead and do that. But it sounds like you've got to do wholesale surgery here if you're intending to insert whole romantic subplots and other elements.
Oh, yeah.
I think that I would set that one aside and say, this was a learning experience. Let's go on to the next one.
Either that or rewrite the book.
Oh, that's the thing.
Which is the exact opposite of what I said. Thank you, Paul.
Well, in either way, it is rewriting. The only things that I would want. The only things that I would want to keep from that particular older script would be my main character, the supporting character, potentially the organization that they are part of. And honestly, I haven't looked at this in like 5 years, so I remember the premise, but I know there was a love interest in there. I think I killed her off in the end. Actually, I'm pretty sure I killed her off in the end.
I'm so proud of you.
Actually, what Paul is saying is correct. I misunderstood what he was saying.
Yeah,
if he's saying use that as inspiration and start over and rewriting that is totally doable. Yeah.
Yeah, it would not be. It's not just needing a quick editing pass. It's wholesale, like stuff you redo.
And I have actually published novels that were dead because I completely rewrote them. I basically used them as, like he's saying, for inspiration. There were a few chapters here and there I could rip off wholesale that didn't need a whole lot of work. But the bottom line is the rest of it did. And so it was easier just to blow it all away and start over. And then when I got to those scenes that I pasted in, it was easy to change them. It was easy to use them and modify them the way I needed to do it because I didn't consider them sacrosanct. Mm-hmm. Because they're ideas, they're written words, and they're digital. You can move them around and do whatever you want with them and replace them. So I think it's better to go from that approach for the recycling portion than try and hammer in, a shitload of new stuff into a book that didn't support it to begin with.
I've done this before. When I first started writing I was writing under a pseudonym and just learning what that meant, what it meant to be a writer. But I liked some of the characters that were involved with that. And so right before I started writing under my own name, I wrote a novel taking those characters and reimagining them to a degree, and then rewriting a new origin story for them, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It was not something that I published because I immediately changed course to writing science fiction because the Porn Apocalypse took place on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And I did go ahead and publish it briefly with someone else, but it didn't sell very well, and I got the rights reverted back to me. Mm. But it was an interesting one. I approached the writing of an erotic mystery. If I'd have had 2 men and a woman, I think it would have achieved more success than having 2 women and a man.
Yes.
And so I accept that I made a bad decision there as far as that was concerned, but it was still a lot of fun to write.
I don't know how many books have started and died between 5 and 15, 20K. And a lot of them I come back to and I start over and I finish it and I get it done. But there are so many other drafts and so many other stories that had start that didn't ever get finished because either I lost what the story was trying to do, I didn't like the character I had created, or there was something mechanically wrong with the storytelling. And I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And those guys are just sitting in the digital file waiting for me to have a day where I go back and look at them and go, oh, I know how to fix this. And then I pick it up and I'd go Ray Bradbury style and finish the goddamn thing. Because that's what he would do. Whenever he hit a wall, he would take those words that he got done, he'd put them in a file, and he'd throw them in a filing cabinet, and he'd thumb through and find another work that he hadn't finished, pull it out, and it may be 5 or 6 years old. He'd pull it out and he'd start writing on it. That is just one of the many different routines you can get into to make that happen, is basically just keep those guys around and don't get rid of them. I don't think there's any problem with hoarding them unless it's physical space that's involved.
I mean, it's a sizable file folder in there, but there's also...
No, there is a maximum weight your desk can hold. You know that, right?
I probably have just as many ponies on the desk as I do manuscripts in the drawer, so we're probably fine, at least weight-wise.
So Paul or Veronica, both, have you gone through your stuff and found something that you do not recall? You're like, look, I did this. Oh, yeah. I went through some of the old files of writing stuff that I had, and I found 25,000 words, the first quarter of a novel written, and I had no memory of it whatsoever. I'm like, what is this? Where did this come from? Who are these characters?
It gets worse. It gets worse. When I've had to physically move machines and back stuff up, I back stuff up, but then it's the mighty Ginger who's actually setting stuff up and getting computer ready and all that. He has found manuscripts. He's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, that's probably something I wrote, whatever. And he'll go and read it because he never reads my stuff, so I'm always stunned when he does. What does he find? He finds the absolutely horrible, steamy cyberpunk attempt that I had.
Steamy cyberpunk.
My intent was to write this piece to be voiced and to play on the characterizations of my voice for steamier stuff. And he was like, why didn't you publish this? I'm like, 'cause it's shit. That's why. Because this is not good. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, wouldn't publish it under my own name. Wouldn't narrate it under my own name either. So I don't know.
We are the worst judges of our own work, so you may be incorrect.
We are, and I think that's one of the things that keeps me from going back and reading stuff, because it's the everything that I did wrong. I don't want to touch that.
Mm-hmm. I learned very early the most important lesson I learned as a writer is to not trust my own view of a work. I am an unreliable gauge of how good my stuff is. So I learned early on to ignore that particular thing of I liked it, I didn't like it. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant. Whether other people like it is. So I pay more attention to what other people say, and I don't even try to gauge my own work anymore. And if he says that it's good enough to publish, then it probably is.
It's really not, because I had another friend who did write and who probably reads more in that particular sphere. And he's like, yeah, you've got some holes here that need to be corrected. And I should have watched what I said with that.
Guess what you got there? Will it go ahead and ignore the covered holes that we're going to have, or the uncovered holes
awesome.
that we've got there? But just because you've got gaps in what the story needs to have to fill for the genre, it doesn't mean that those gaps cannot be satisfied. There we go. I edged around, hitting the right words.
Oh my gosh. Right. Yes. But then I still have to go back and look at it. And it's like, it's like a decades later cringe.
Yeah.
Of just like going through and looking at your own
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can't deal with this.
I went ahead, and the first co-writing project that I ever did was Glenn Stewart approaching me to rewrite something he wrote when he was in college.
Okay.
And it was, as one might imagine,
Rough.
a little rough. And it had things where it was a novel with a huge gap in the middle that had to be filled. So it ended up having to be 2 books because there was no way that it was going to fit as a single book. But even so, there's only so much you can do to change the work and keep true to the story. So it got a number of reviews that were, this is a less than satisfactory book. The author you got, Glenn, did go ahead and do that. He didn't do a very good job here. And Glenn,
And you're thinking,
and Glenn's job was, well, actually, there were 3 authors involved here. Me, Terry, and 18-year-old me. And 18-year-old me was not a great storyteller, and so we had to work with what 18-year-old me delivered. So I take the blame. 18-year-old me takes the blame for this. You could only polish. I'm not going to say that it was a turd, but you could only polish a turd so much. It was a good story, so it wasn't a turd, but that metaphor is still applicable to older works.
that is an interesting take on it, because thinking back to when I was writing these, I had 2, if not 3 kids under the age of 5. I was working on my master's and working full time and starting my podcasting and narrating career. What the hell was I doing?
I know.
What the hell?
So
I mean,
anyone
like-
out there that's listening, make sure that you get this right. I was not slamming Glenn's work. I was
No.
merely saying
No.
that, early writing from any author is not going to be the same as the mature, polished writing that
No.
they have after writing dozens or more books. So there you go.
And Matt says you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter.
Okay, there's
have
a
to-
metaphor that I think that I will keep. Thank you.
Is that a Welsh euphemism?
There's no telling. There's
I
no
don't know.
telling. There's no telling whatsoever. Whatsoever. I think going back and looking at dead files, the dead letter file is important, especially if you finished a work and you don't know what to do next, or you know what to do next, but you're looking for ideas about plot or character or whatever else. Going through the dead letter file allows you to basically go look at something and go, wow, this is a huge piece of shit, but I like this idea, and I like this idea, and I like this. Oh, I can use this.
And that's the thing. I always say that if the character stays with you, or the idea stays with you, then there's some merit to it.
Mhm.
And
I agree.
it's worth taking the time to give that character a story that's worthy of them.
Yeah. And I think that's the trick. If, in my humble opinion, if you've got a great character, you're halfway there. Because great characters will basically go through any story and have a good time, so to speak. So, yeah, I would encourage you to chase that sucker down if you like the character. And if you have to rewrite the 70,000 words, so the fuck what? You start over and you just go through it, and you already have the blueprint of so many other
I
actions.
even had a mock-up for the cover. I even had some. Do we have time? Would you like to see it? I do actually have it framed.
Let's see it. Let's see
Let's
it.
see it. Hang on. Oh, there goes Julius.
Well, Shizm, I guess. Dyslexic me saw glitter as butter, so I was a little confused as to what you were trying to do, eating a turd for dinner. But, I thought maybe it was just a Welsh thing.
It's really bad because it actually has like the year on it. So the idea is at least 10 years old.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It actually looks pretty good.
There was a person who followed a couple of the podcasts that I did, and he often emailed and said like, "Hey, do you mind if I draw something based on this?" I'm like, "Go right ahead. I love fan art. Go for it." So he wound up doing the cover for another story. I'll have to put that one back up. But I said, "Hey, I've had this idea. Do you want to give it a go?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And so he drew that one up for Hollow. That was the heart stitching.
Ah, gotcha.
Hence Hollow. So I can come up with titles, but it probably needs work. But maybe I'll go back to it. I think I know where that file is.
We'll see. There you go. I have so many dead letter files, the recent ones, that I know what I have to go back and finish. So I have 4 unpublished works still in the hamper. And then I have 3 partially completed novels, ranging anywhere between 20 and 50,000 words. They just need to be finished or completed. So that's a crazy amount of shit for me to do. I don't need to go looking through the dead letter files because I already know where they are and which ones I need to tackle next. But first I have to get all this other bullshit done. Like,
yeah, that's the
get
thing.
new book out.
And then there are all these other projects that have to be done.
Yeah, all the recording I have to do. I have to record 3-4 more audiobooks. Lovely. Please shoot me now. Anyway, don't be glaring at me, woman. Don't be glaring at me.
That's not. Would you like me to glare? I can glare at you through the screen. Would you really like
Give
me
me
to glare?
Give me a glare. Ooh, wow. I've only seen that one at Balticon after I made a faux pas. Big faux pas. It was huge. It was massive. It was glorious. Anyway, so I think basically,
Oh, ye oldie bar.
yeah, exactly. I think we pretty much covered the recycling thing. I think we're all in favor of it. It's just how you do it is the big trick. So you're just going to have to go through and make your decisions on that as to what you want to chase down. Now,
We only have 8 minutes left.
I know, but this should be a quick topic. Devastating
That's what they
feedback.
all say.
Devastating feedback.
Never
Just
listen to anybody that gives you feedback. That's a terrible mistake.
So, full caveat. I suggested this. RBF on steroids. Yes, Rowdy, I have congenital RBF. If you ever see me in person, I will look like something is wrong and I am mad at somebody. It's just how my face is. All of my sisters are like that. My daughter is like that. It's a what's wrong? Nothing. I'm relaxing. Anyway, so in the process of working on my website for my pseudo, because she doesn't have as many titles as I do, I was going to go and list all of the audiobooks that I've done, and I was looking for a recent release. Well, I went and found it on Audible, and I saw they didn't have that many reviews, and there was a 3-star review. I'm like, that's interesting. Because you don't often find 3-star reviews with audiobooks. If usually in that case, it means either there's something wrong with the story or there's something wrong with the narrator.
Narrator, yeah.
And in a lot of those cases, when it's dual narrated, the female narrator often gets the worst part of it because I'm a chick, that's why. Guy voices get a lot more leeway in romance. So I look at it, and the review is something along the lines of, "Oh my gosh, the female character was so annoying. Maybe it's the narrator. I couldn't, I couldn't finish listening to this." And I read that and I'm like, sweetheart, it's the character. Because while I was narrating it, it was like, if I ever met this person in real life, I would smack her. There was just there's certain tropes, especially in dark romance, where you have a brat character, and that's who she was. And for the first half of the book, I did want to. Well, actually, for the whole book, I wanted to slug her. I wanted her to grow up and make better choices, but that wouldn't have been good for the story. So, bad choices galore.
Sounds like Kelsey.
It sounds like life.
Kelsey is a ray of sunshine and, pretty poties compared to what this was. Okay, even Julia in this case, Julia made better choices than this character.
Youchers.
Yeah. So, and if that's not like but getting that feedback, I'm like, okay, am I going to take that to heart? No. Because why? Because I knew the script. Because I got cast for the book and I got cast for the sequel. So the person who's making the choices for casting, they're booking me again. I'm still getting paid. I'm sorry I didn't like listening to it. I've had books that I've not finished listening because I just didn't like how the story was going, or I didn't like how a character was presented. That's okay. Everybody has their likes and dislikes. But would I have been able to do that 10 years ago? No. I would have gone, oh my gosh, I did a horrible thing. I can't do this. Maybe I should stop narrating forever.
Well, then there's the comments that Terry and I get for our military sci-fi. Why does everybody have to curse so much? Oh my God. That's not the way people in the military speak.
You're right.
I get those comments because I don't have mine filled with profanity.
Derelict Saga. Well, yeah, okay. Well, Derelict, but you've had that before.
I had one person complain about the unrelenting march of F-bombs in my stories, and I sent him a mail going, are you sure you're talking about me? Because I'm pretty sure that's not me. Oh, sorry, it was somebody else. My bad.
All right, fine. I get comments. Why do these people talk so salty? I don't understand. Don't read military sci-fi. Because it was basically, why do all military sci-fi officers have to curse so much? I have to explain this to you. You don't get it.
I made a conscious choice with writing the military sci-fi because I could have changed that and made it a little bit more salty. And I said, I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and keep it with the low grade, using the word crap and things like that on occasion. And that's it. That's as far as I go, because when you start increasing the saltiness level, it might appeal to a certain branch of the audience, but it's also going to drive away other potential readers.
Sure.
So I made the choice to do that. It's not saying that's the right choice, but it was the choice for me.
Yeah, you're not writing blood and guts sci-fi either.
No, I'm not. I'm writing space opera with military themes.
Right. Kind of a different animal. My characters curse a lot, usually because they're being chased by something.
Rowdy says, I was in the Army and every third word was the F word. Jesus effing Christ. I also was in the Army, and I can confirm that is what came out of my mouth. And it took a year after I was out before I could dial it back to deprogram the F-bomb usage.
Yes. I did not serve. I was a contractor, but I did theater for 4 years. And for those who have been in the theater, you know that the breadth of vocabulary of a theater kid is actually quite similar to that of one in the military. Some of the words are used differently, but the basics are still there. And there's another level of creativity. So when I went to work when I left college and wasn't doing theater and I worked at the shipyard, I would have people apologizing. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You shouldn't be saying this. I'm like, I know all these words and some more. Would you feel better if I joined in? And the disconnect on their faces was choice. Rowdy says, when I got out one Christmas, I asked my grandmother to pass the effing potatoes at Thanksgiving. depending upon your grandmother, she may have said F yeah and just, handed it over with the gravy.
I had a very similar thing. It wasn't Thanksgiving, but I had to be chastised by my mother multiple times for that mouth.
Oh. I've caught my theater kid dropping a few, and she usually thinks I'm not listening or I can't listen. But I've caught a handful. Some of that might be her grandmother's doing, because I think once the kids turned 6, she stopped having a filter. It was great. Did you know your 3-year-old said shit at daycare? In what context? Well, she tried to push open the door and it wouldn't, and she just said shit. I'm like, so she used it properly. We'll work on it.
My mom loves to tell this story. When the first time we were in Canada, I guess I was 2 maybe. And she's in there with all these ladies, Canadians and et cetera, and they're talking and chatting and getting to know one another. And I'm supposedly napping. And I got out of my crib, went to the stairs, tried to go down them, and fell all the way down. Tumbled, just, whole splat. So hit the bottom. And apparently I sat up and looked at all these terrified women who were just horrified about what was going on and said, "Oh, bullshit." Didn't cry, just said, "Oh, bullshit." And then everybody started laughing. So that was how the country of Canada got introduced to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, folks, we got to bring this to a close. So if you have a question or comment about this episode, you can send an email to show@devrobotssociety.com. You can find me on Mastodon at Paul_E_Cooley at VYRSE.social. You can find us on Facebook at the Dev Robots. I was doing so well. The Dev Robots Society writing community, where we mangle all the madness. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast, where we are live every Saturday almost at 3 p.m. CST. Like and subscribe so you know when we're live. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows like the one that's coming up in just about 7.5 minutes. And at the $10 level, you get your names read. And our $10 patrons are Juan Valentin, James Terrell, Nate Cosby, Antoine Batts, Tony L. Joy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Isabel Cushy, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible.
Don't forget to send all your F-bomb requests to Paul.
Or just read the Derelict Saga. I got you covered. All right, on that note, we are out of here. Have a great Saturday. Hope you learned something. Hope we learned something. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.